Wow, what a beautiful composition by Untutuko Sibisi, beautifully presented by members of the Cape Town Opera Company here in Cape Town. A very good resource for conductors and learners who will be participating with SASKE in 2021. That was supposed to have been in 2020, but due to the COVID outbreak around the world, then the competition didn't happen. So the same resources will be used next year. If you go to the YouTube channel of the Cape Town Opera, you will find more resources there, including commentary about this music. Well-researched commentary that is done by the professional singers, and then they perform the music. A very good afternoon to everybody. We're back. The Choralist conversations are back. I took 2-3 weeks just to regroup and rest a bit. And now we are back. And today, without wasting any time, welcome and let's get right to it. Today we'll be talking about adjudication. Hence, I started with this song, Kuwe Mtombo Wengoma, which will be part of the SASKE competitions 2021, whereby adjudicators will be adjudicating this music. But I want us to learn more about adjudication, what goes into it, and who has powers when it comes to that sitting table there of about 3 or 5 members, men and women, and sometimes there's a chief adjudicator, sometimes there's a quality assurer, sometimes these people are working as individuals, sometimes they're working alone, or they're working together discussing the music. So to help us with the topic, I have 2 specialists, well-renowned adjudicators. Let's get to know them.
Reginald Swissocho Shezi graduated from University of Natal, Edgewood campus with higher education diploma with accounting and business management as majors. His qualification includes class music, which he acquired with a distinction. Sifiso has always been a passionate choral music practitioner and has conducted or trained and won accolades with choirs such as Lamontville Choral Society, Tualume High School, Hibadin Vocal Waves, and Gauteng Choristers, which he joined in the year 2000. Sifiso took formal voice lessons with Carla Paul in 2002-2003 and became part of a couple of opera productions with Pro Musica in Roodepoort. As a music practitioner, Sifiso has facilitated various music workshops, staged theme performance lectures at the University of Visual and Performing Arts, Colombo, Sri Lanka, the University of Peradeniya, Sri Lanka, and has adjudicated in various ISTAT forts in South Africa and neighboring countries. Sifiso is a founder and CEO and key individual of Gasi's Risk Solutions, a company specializing in risk management and business short-term insurance, and also a macadamia nuts farmer, together with wife Ntombifuti and their 3 daughters, under their company Zengcude trading as Zenmax.
Welcome, Mr. Shezi. Kunjani?
Yaphila bhuti njani?
Siyaphila nathi. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.
I should thank you very much.
Yes, let's get to know my second guest.
Patrick Sindile Tikolo is an experienced performer, singing teacher, choral director, music clinician, adjudicator, composer, arranger, and radio commentator. He hails from Zwelicha in King Williamstown in the Eastern Cape, where he did his primary to high school education. He holds a performance diploma in music from the University of Cape Town, an artist diploma and a Master of Music degree from the Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas, United States of America. As a choral director and enthusiast, Patrick formed a choir, UCT Cantiamo, in 2007, which presented a successful rendition of the Zulu Mass by one of South Africa's brilliant composers, Unisela Sibisi, in 2010. He is a former conductor of the Simon Estes Choral Group, which later became Heavenly Voices Choir, Siakula Choral Group, Heritage Singers, and CPUT Choir. In his name, he has composed about 10 choral pieces. He has adjudicated national choral projects and international singing competitions, including the World Choir Games held in Tshwane in 2018. He also adjudicated in the Belvedere Singing Competition and Mimi Kutsia Singing Competition, to name a few. Mr. Patrick Tikolo is currently employed as a first black head and senior lecturer in Vocal Studies Division at the South African College of Music in the University of Cape Town.
Yes, welcome, Mr. T. Kunjani?
Siyabonga siyabulisa kuwe nabaphulaphuli ababukeli bale nkqubo. Noko mina ngexesha siphethe kakuhle inkosi.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining us this afternoon. A surprise there, seeing you conduct. Which choir was that?
Yangodusa ngoku. That was the Heritage Singers, the choir, of course, my home choir, the one I formed when I was still Mfana waseQonce.
I see that long baton. It was a thing. I see it was a thing before, because I know Mr. Matthews used to have such a long baton. The late Dr. Khadebe also had a long one. And also Kizu Kalawagu Stulisa also had a very long baton that I couldn't use. Hence I had a straw. People who saw me connect with the straw, I couldn't hold that kind of a baton. That's nice. Thank you so much. Mr. T, let me start with you. Masicha Isakuma. We are talking about adjudication, which is an act of an adjudicator. I've heard so many things being spoken about adjudicators. Some people would say, no, if you've never been a conductor, you cannot adjudicate. If you've never been a singer, you cannot adjudicate. If you've never been this, or you've never been to a university, if you don't have a music degree, you cannot adjudicate. Now, in your understanding, who is an adjudicator? Who should adjudicate, and what is their role? Just in summary.
As Bukala, allow me to start this way. First of all, you would agree this one is one subjective topic. I had second thoughts when you invited me on this one, and then something in me, shall I call it an educator in me, said, "Why not? Let me just do it. It's we grow. This does it." Long and short, I said yes, and I'm embracing the moment because one, I'm here to learn myself. I don't consider myself to know it all. As an artist, I learn every day. I learn from the young one in my class, studio class, and in choirs. So long and short, that's basically what I can say about this type of umsebenzi osinike one. Allow me, first of all, again to say, I'll put this one on record. We are here not as affiliates, nor having asked permission from any of the choral programs we've served. We are here as individuals to basically share thoughts, ideas, and maybe experiences, while at the same time we would be making some suggestions here and there. If you ask me about an adjudicator, while we all know that people go to the institutions of higher learning for, say, choral conducting, composition, or learning just the choral itself, unfortunately, this one person called an adjudicator has not had any of those grounds prepared for him or her. These are people who actually come with the idea of engaging on the work before them. Basically, their task is to serve with the purpose of development. If you ask me who is an adjudicator, what is the role of an adjudicator? For me, I can safely say his first task is to serve and advocate for the written score. This person evaluates the performance on the stage, of course, with the set standards, as long as this person is knowledgeable and they adhere to the requirements of the task at hand. The evaluation itself must be fair, it must be impartial, it must be accurate, and it must be intuitive enough that it actually equips the performer for them to grow or develop. An adjudicator then is supposed to be somebody with a demonstrated expertise. Of course, this is a duty of, or it is a duty of an organizing team, shall I call it, host, to make sure whoever they call to be their adjudicator must be somebody well-informed, somebody who has some experience. So an adjudicator, basically, his assessment, while he's assessing the performance on stage, he actually must make sure to identify the strengths and weaknesses of the performance, but again, be able to encourage for improvement and, of course, the development, as I was saying earlier. He must not police the choir. He must not police the performance. What I'm saying by that, he must listen to the performance with an open mind and knowing, of course, there could be innovations or sometimes the new meanings that a choir or a performer could bring up on stage. This is a person, again, who must know that his role is to affirm the human ideals, these ideals that are picked up by this performer and passed on to us as the music lovers and the people who are there to actually attest to this performance. I know there's lots that one could say, but for the sake of time, I thought I could just say those few. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I like the fact that you are raising the role of an adjudicator goes beyond just writing on the score sheet. You spoke about the developmental aspect to it, that whoever is sitting on that table also has the same responsibility as everyone else involved in the organization of a particular festival or competition to develop, that is to add value to the choirs that are performing. I like that. And I think, I believe actually, if there are young musicians, upcoming adjudicators, or those who wish to become adjudicators who are watching now, they are going to think, beyond just sitting on that table and scoring choirs, but they'll think about developing themselves such that they're in a position to develop others. Let me bring in Mr. Shezi. Your experience, both of you sitting in front of me now, you've adjudicated nationally here in South Africa and internationally. And in those competitions, both nationally and internationally, I've seen different systems of adjudicating. And I believe, honestly, that each system that is being used has a particular value to add in that particular festival. Just so we learn about these systems and perhaps learn more in terms of how those systems would assist us. As an example, there are systems whereby adjudicators sit alone and adjudicate, and where there's a chief adjudicator and where there's a quality assurer, like I said at the beginning, and there are systems where they come together and negotiate and discuss. Now, these different systems, in terms of the approach, give sometimes different results. When someone is adjudicating alone and when they are adjudicating together. So if you can actually get us into different systems that we can explore as a music fraternity.
Mr. Njeza, thank you very much again. Let me greet your audience as well at home. And straight to the question that you have asked me around the systems. Let me start by explaining that a system of adjudication is always a responsibility of the estate fort or that particular organization that is coordinating a competition. So it surely should be in line with their intentions. If intention yabo kukuthi they just want to stage a prime or a high profile estate fort, ngiyakhumbula ukuthi ubaba Tikolo indicated ukuthi we are here on individual capacity and not representing organizations. But please allow me to bear reference to some of the organizations that are known, that are common factors in terms of being involved in my estate forts. SASKE, for example, is an institution that is purely on development of ilento ama musicians, developing ama conductors, developing even those that appreciate music. So they work on the basis of what could be looked at as a syllabus that is prescribed towards the achievement of this art form. While on the other hand, we've got an institution like National Choir Festival, which is more into a festival or an estate fort. Look, while development could be paramount to them, the main objective is that feast of music at a very high level and highly profiled. Now, the systems as to how competitions should be adjudicated are purely relying on that organization that is organizing the competition or organizing the estate fort. I'm aware of a system where we traditionally. Now, when I came into the adjudication space, I found it being the commonly used system. By a committee set up whereby a group of adjudicators will sit and then listen to a performance and discuss that performance and get to an agreement as to who do they feel as a group is a performance that is standing out. Then a system a few years back, which was spearheaded by Saskia as well, was introduced, which was individualized adjudication system. I know as well, Uguti, World Choir Games use this an individualized adjudication system, but AMA background systems that are supporting the adjudication processes, they differ. So individual adjudication system or set up without AMA backup systems in the background is as good as nothing. Just maybe to take you back, I fortunately was part of the development of the material that is used for Saskia adjudication. I'm not too sure whether it has at any point changed since my time, but when it started, it was addressing concerns of the conductors, concerns of the learners, concerns of those that appreciate music in terms of results, because AMA competitions, they are highly motivated by results, unfortunately. Now, when we had to set up a system that had to respond to some of the concerns, we were highly cautious of the concerns, and intention was to address those concerns that were coming with a committee setup. Committee setup would have AMA problems like uzothi uyafika umfana omncane or someone young from the college or from university coming to apply himself as an adjudicator for the first time. Afike khona ama-veterans lapha or Patrick Tikolo, and he immediately feels inferior to contest any point that one of the senior adjudicators, if I may call them, would be raising. Now, opinion is compromised. It's never, no one gets to reach it. Such that AMA results I accommodate the opinion because there are limitations or hindrances that block him from being able to express his opinion about the results of that particular performance. So this one came in with an intention of addressing that and many other concerns that were there, that were in place. Now, when it came in, it was various ideas from various practitioners. People were pouring in, ideas as to how can this be resolved. I doubt anyone who can solely claim the adjudication system, Saskia, is his brainchild, because there were various ideas. I remember Sidwell had opinions, Zungu came up with opinions, Michael Dingan were there, Abomnomia were there. There were various people. There were even people in the background, conductors who were applying as adjudicators, who were coming in with different ideas. I had a task of consolidating these ideas and setting up a system that is the system that is, I believe, is currently used, which was informed by opinions from various people. So, system that was introduced by Saskia a few years back, it ended up bringing up, giving birth to other ISTATFORDs or competitions using individualized system of adjudication. Now, questioning enkulu, are they using it with all the tools that are in the background that need to be applied? Ukuze akwazi monitor results at least a bit closer to what could be definite or accurate. While adjudication is opinion-based and is subjective, but the effort was towards driving at least there should be a common point of departure in terms of the results that come out. So a system without background systems or background processes or background documents that support it is as good as dead. So the system must have backups in the background.
Certainly, I agree with you, Mr. Shezi. Perhaps one has just joined us. We are talking about adjudication, and Mr. Shezi was just giving us an idea of the kind of adjudication systems that we're using more, especially here in South Africa. And I think one important point that we must emphasize is that whatever system you are choosing, in my opinion, there's no wrong or right system. Just know why you are picking that system. Because others would choose that meeting style where 3 or 5 adjudicators discuss, and you'd find that in terms of their appointment of adjudicators, they appointed people who specialize in different things. Like one would be a voice specialist, another one would be would have been a conductor who has an experience in conducting, another one is very good technically, and so on and so forth. Then when you bring them together, each one of them is then able to bring in their expertise onto the table. So that system, you cannot say it is completely wrong to have 3 people discussing. But if you are choosing this one where that is individualized, you need to know that you are choosing people who can work individually or independently, which then brings me, Mr. Tikolo, back to you, because you spoke about who can adjudicate or who should adjudicate and what their role is, even though you correctly said that there's no absolute answer that this must be. It's written and cast on stone. How do we then train adjudicators if they have this kind of responsibility? How can we train them to make sure that the pool of adjudicators that goes out to adjudicate these big competitions, we've got quality, we've got people that we can trust even with their results? What would you suggest? Because as you put it, there's no university that trains adjudicators.
Thanks once more, Sbu. I think this one depends more on our hosts, that is the competition organizers. One, while we know there are models out there in the world where we could look at and see how things are done, I think the organizers could do more in leaning on this side of Bosberat, making sure before each competition, before the songs are released or delivered to the choirs, at least adjudicators must meet to discuss and dissect on these musical pieces that are prescribed for the year. In so doing, they get to learn from each other. They share ideas. It's of no use to have all of these people, I don't care, they could be as experienced, but if they only meet on the day of the competition to adjudicate, we're always going to see discrepancies. So what I'm trying to say is, if the organizers make sure to actually have these boss berats, and then make sure these people spend a weekend at least to sit down and really look at the music, they'll come out there being different and being better prepared for the competition. Of course, we've had experiences with this, and we've seen how it is when you don't get to have a boss berat, and how it gets to be when you go to the competitions having had these boss berats. I'm also thinking, much like we have conductors that have kind of formed associations of some kind. To some extent, these are helping their cause. I would like to make a call, if it were up to me, to say, if adjudicators would speak from one voice, first of all, by having this body of theirs to say, this is us adjudicators. Here, we teach each other, we equip each other, so that when the day comes for any of us to be called for duty, we are always prepared. If those people are there as the body, the organizers of these competitions also would find it easy to say they know they want incredible or qualified, if I may put it that way, adjudicators. They would come directly to this body to say, a body of adjudicators, would you please help us? We need this number of adjudicators for our competition that is going to be on a certain date. So if they are approached that way, they know for this kind of a competition, they release certain composers to say, you, and you, go do your work there. And again, these people, they will also know that they have somebody to ask, to answer to. In other words, whatever they do, at the end of the day, gets monitored. In other words, there'll be feedbacks. They will write reports after the competition to say, this was my experience. This is what I did. This is what I feel about the competition. This is the idea that I have. All of those ideas put together and monitored in one way or the other, they would actually help us turn the corner. While on that same subject, while Mr. Shezi spoke about the systems, some of us were lucky enough to have been part of the panel in the World Choir Games. There are things that we really liked from what we saw there. Things like, for instance, we know with us and our system here, we are always assessing these performances or grading them to get number 1, 2, and 3. And number 1, 2, and 3, there gets to be this thing that is so, it takes away Ubuntu from us, especially when 1, 2, and 3 are announced. We say all these things that we say, be it online or over these social media platforms. But I have this opinion that, were we to adopt what we saw at the World Choir Games, where, for instance, instead of position 1, 2, and 3, they would actually be grading choirs according to this performance belongs to bronze. This performance is silver. This performance is gold. And maybe it could go to platinum if there's that. What I'm trying to say, by the end of the day, by the end of the weekend where choirs were competing with each other, if they go home with, say, out of 15 choirs, we are able to actually have about 9 choirs that all have gotten gold. That gold status would make them go home knowing that they have been recognized. Because at some point, if you are position 1, 2, and 3, and then we have moments where we have these choirs that performed so well that they would get, for instance, the 90. One would get, say, 96, one would get 95, 94, and maybe number 4 would get 92. But number 4 won't be recognized with that performance they did because they are not in the top 3. So what I'm trying to say, with the grading of, that is, bronze, silver, and gold, I think it would somehow help make us leave the competition with some smiles as opposed to actually what we get to experience at times. I thought I should mention that.
Very well put, Mr. T. I wonder what at home are thinking about that point, the point about the grading. Because, of course, if number 4 gets 90, above 90%, but just because they're number 4, they're not mentioned, in the competition, they're not acknowledged, whereas they did so well, just like other choirs. I wonder what people think about that, I'll be reading some of the comments in a moment, but at this point in time, we have a guest. Whilst I'm giving my guests, Mr. Tikolo no Mr. Shezi, a chance to go drink some water, I have a guest here, Mr. Adjudicator, ozawuthetha about a very nice and beautiful gesture that they're doing in East London for a friend and a colleague, Mike Baibile, who got a scholarship to go study in Germany. Masiye ngolhlobo. Mr. Gwajan, welcome, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks, Mr. Njeza. And how are you doing, sir?
I'm very well. I'm very well. You look relaxed there. I haven't gotten used to this look, but here we are. Here we are. Ati, tell me, you guys as friends, Zika Mike, you are organizing a concert in East London to raise funds for him. Please tell us more about this concert, briefly.
It's a response now we had after Simamele Ukoyo and Mike. It's not an outcry per se, but Mike usbegile story sakhe during the show there. Then we said Namajida that hey bruh, this thing, Mike, it can't go unnoticed. Let's sit and do something. Would have sat with our friends. See, pocket, Mike imali. But however, we decided no, but ingabi into yethu. Mike was the last person because we said Namajita, all the local soloists is koyo up. I said, guys, let's do something. It's a ezawubiza wonke umuntu okhoyo, be it around East London or surroundings ezikhoyo. So whatever proceeds that we are going to make during the concert, sisa straight to Mike Bible.
That's a beautiful gesture, Ati, and thanks to everybody that is involved there. Can you tell us about the ticketing? Where do we get tickets? Abantu bawubhukisha njani, the venue, and how are you going to adhere to the COVID-19 regulations? Because we still cannot have open-ended events currently. Tell us about the venue and the tickets.
Oh, thank you, Sibune. The venue, of course, it's Upper Tanzania, NU7 Community Hall. Generally, a ticket it's 50 rands. For VIP, it's limited to 10 seats. It's 150. Abantu abakude who wants to contribute towards le gesture, ikhona link ephayana kwi-wall kaMike nogxa wam uAthi Tshantshi, but nam ndifakile kweyam inansika i-Facebook page. You follow that link and then you buy there online, whether you are going to come or you are around the East, because we discover that we have our friends from Cape Town, Joburg, that they are eager to contribute that party. They won't make immense zokuza Upper Eastern Cape, but they want to hoy whatever they have. So it's a quick ticket. It's there on my wall, Facebook, or Atengosi Tshantshi Ngubenyati, or else straight to Mike Bible. In terms of COVID-19 regulations, it accommodates 250, but however, we have to to the regulation. We'll only cater the 100, and the sittings and the sanitizing zikhona emnyango noko simkhona uxawethu esimbekileyo pha that specializes clear kwindaba ye COVID, and ke sibeke clear ke kwi-poster yethu, no mask, no entry banda kwethu.
Ladies and gentlemen, please go out and support. Find the link ku Facebook at Nkosi Janji, or else Mike Bibile himself. If you are not in the Eastern Cape or even in East London, you can still contribute. This is important. Art, thank you so much, man. Thank you so much, and I wish you so well for the concert.
Thank you, Mr. Njeza. Thank you for the platform.
Shabman. As we are winding down our conversation, let me read a few comments there. Bongani Msesiwe timyingozi nyani ke lento yokudibana kwabantu at the very last moment. Sharing of knowledge prior the commencement of the festival ingancedisa kusetyenziswe people who were there kwezi gatherings. Mr. Monde Mdingi yena uti, I like what, I just want to increase this. Yes, there we go. There we go. I like what Mr. Tikolo is saying. Extremely well put, sir. It is very important for the adjudicators to come prepared. Bravo. On the point about grading the choirs as opposed to top 3, it could not have been said any better. Thank you so much, Mr. Mdingi, for that comment. Mr. Matthews, your panel is correct. There's no specialized training for adjudicators, and there is adjudication system that is absolute. I think there is no adjudication system that is absolute. Adjudication is about ethics, values, and principles. Comments, please. Mr. Matthews, Usisa, let me read the last one here. That's a good one, Mr. Tikolo. Monde, what is this? Eisteddford has been doing for years, and it feels really good to acquire attaining a bronze, silver, or gold. That will be really great. Of course, it's very nice when, even if you're not number 1, when you've been acknowledged, or especially when you have performed at the same bracket as the winning choirs, even if you don't get the number 1 spot. Mr. Matthews took us to the next step of our conversation, which speaks to the code of ethics for adjudicators and power relations, if you want to, between the organizers, the panel, and whoever is leading the panel. But the question is, in your experience, is there any code besides what we have as individuals? If you want to be an ethical person as an individual, is there a code of ethics that is being enforced by some of the organizations that we work for? Mr. Shezi, let me start with you.
Mr. Njeza, let me hint that the adjudication system is evolving. It's not sitting stagnant. It's a continuous process that keeps being improved along the way. I do recall Uchi, when I was launched into adjudication a few years back by Yena Baba Umzwandile Matthews. He had a system for ISAGMA, whereby we would sit as adjudicators, maybe 3 of us, but in the background, there is a jury that is also sitting. While they are not doing direct work in terms of adjudication, but they are cautious and they are keeping records of the performances and even scoring them. All that towards achieving perfect results. So if we look at it at this point in time, there has been a lot of evolving efforts from different music coordinators in terms of refining ama competitions or ama results from their competitions. Code of ethics. Code of ethics is paramount. A competition without a code of ethics, nayo futhi, I'll tell you right now, Uti, it's almost dead, because the code of ethics, it's what will align you as an adjudicator with the core, with the culture, with the intention of that particular estate fund. Look, there are strengths that an adjudicator should naturally come with. As of enhanced by being loyal to that code of ethics of that particular organization that has invited him to assess my performances in that particular competition. But yes, I know I'm a successful estate forts. They have code of ethics. I know Uchi, I'll mention again, let me go back. That SACMA Esasienza would in advance sign a code of ethics that's prescribing us how should we do our work, how should we retain the nobility of the art form, how should we assess without being biased, in our observations. Would in advance at the point of appointment sign that. I know NCF as well does that. When you get appointed, and appointment corner is not guaranteed to the following year will still be there. You see an email coming through with a letter stating that you have been appointed to partake this year, and here is a code of ethics. Please sign it as a symbol that you are going to subscribe to it. And without you signing that code of ethics, you cannot adjudicate within the National Choir Festival. You have to sign yourself into that pact of code of ethics. Now, SAGMA that I have hinted as one of the examples on the systems that are being used. I know there is a code of ethics. I know Uchi Nakona, in my time when I was still there, especially where I was involved, we would always make sure we sign the code of ethics, even though it would not be in advance, but on the day of the competition before an adjudicator sits down to adjudicate, we would always make sure he subscribes to the code of ethics that is there. So code of ethics is a must for a competition to be to stand within its core, and for someone to be genuine throughout. It calls for one to be disciplined. It always reminds you, Uchi, look, there are people that have worked so intensely, spending their dimes, their last dimes, in order to make sure, Uchi, there is a competition, they partake in that competition. It always reminds you, Uchi, that choir that is there on the stage is going to be awarded, if in case wins, it's going to be awarded a prize that cannot compare to the capital they've put in developing this performance that they are showing here. There's been a lot of activity that has happened in the background there. So code of ethics is definitely a must. A competition without a code of ethics, I don't think personally it's driving it the proper way. Like it has been hinted, there is no perfect adjudication system. It's a matter of having, that are core, like proper systems, as I indicated in my earlier submission. There must be proper systems behind the adjudication system, and part of those systems is, which is critical, is a code of ethics.
Mr. Tikolo, perhaps Bridget is raising one of the contributions towards the systems. She's asking, do you think it is helpful to develop a rubric for adjudicators to work from, the expectations and criteria for bronze, silver, gold, etc.? Perhaps this can take away the possibility of biased adjudication. I know as we were preparing for the conversation, this is one of the things that we touched on. Do you perhaps want to talk to that point about a rubric? Please unmute. There we are.
This is once again a very important question. And of course, I'm adhering 100% with what Mr. Shezi was saying about the ethics. Luvalo, if Nalando iti, Nalando Navalo. If you go on stage, I mean on the table to adjudicate without Navalo, please throw away that we are good at it. Funekube novalo doing that uphethe umsebenzi wabantu. And umsebenzi that is so sensitive. And coming back to the question right now. Esbu, you are right, we reflected a bit on this. If, for instance, on each table, taking into consideration that we have maybe more than one table on the day, each adjudicator must have a score guide, in other words, scoring guide. What I mean by that, if you decide that this performance that I've just listened to deserves an 80, the score guide will tell you where 80 belongs. It might call it excellent. It might call it whatever it calls. If you see that performance as an excellent performance, then go to the scoring guide, see exactly what the description of excellent between maybe that 80 and 85, if I may put that as an example. If your mark doesn't talk to this description, it means your mark doesn't belong there. Look below or look above to see exactly where this mark of yours would belong. In so doing, there is no point that we will have these big gaps in terms of scoring, finding out that one adjudicator had this big mark, one was having a mark this low. It would also talk to this as a grading. Of course, it will be defined well enough to say a performance that deserves bronze should be this performance. A performance that is silver should be this one, etc. So there is no way we wouldn't be getting that right. And indeed, it's up to the organizers at any point to make sure all of these things are set in time as standard that each and every adjudicator should actually adhere to. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. T. We're gonna go to an ad break just for a minute. And when we come back, we are winding down and concluding the conversation in less than 5 minutes. But in that 5 minutes, I just want us to highlight the importance of making sure that there's a flow of information, good flow of information from adjudicators' workshops to conductors' workshops. Because I believe part of enforcing ethics means that what adjudicators know should be known to conductors. We can't be surprised after a competition that the adjudicators had their own understanding of what is required from the conductors. So when we come back from this ad, whereby we'll be announcing the winners of the Opportunity Janis Kiki opera that is happening next week. They gave away some tickets, so we are going to announce the winners of those tickets. Yes, these are the winners of the tickets to the Opera Janis Kiki, which will be a virtual performance presented by SA Opportunity. And this is a group that was here about 2-3 weeks ago telling us about this initiative. These are very young people, young singers from the Cape Town Opera. One of them is Tolane. He is a director, a very young director. I got so excited when I heard about this because we don't get to see abantu abancinci in those positions. So here are the winners. Sakiwe Mkosana, Masonwabe Nqawe, Karabo Rabaloyi, Sihle Mkosana, Maki Nqoko, Nolubabalo Mengu, Bathandwa Ketelo, Malungisa Majiza, Nombongo Faki, please WhatsApp your email addresses to the number below, 066-282-2255. Your email address, then you will be emailed details for this virtual performance. And I want to urge people to purchase tickets. Once again, the details, it's happening next week, the 27th and the 28th of November, 2020, starting at 6 o'clock in the evening. Tickets are 100 rands. Book at Quicket. I want to emphasize this point. The people who will be performing here, the majority of them, if not all of them, are freelance singers. So by purchasing a 100 rands ticket, you are actually creating employment for these young singers. Please do support, whether you will be available at that time or not, just support as we asked for Mike Bible. It's time that we come together and support one another so that we ensure the sector survives because of our efforts. So thanks again to SA Opportunity for putting up this performance during the time whereby Singenam Tulo. Cape Town Opera iyasikhumbula that COVID-19 still is out there.
Always remember to wash your hands regularly with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Remember to wipe surfaces often. Only leave home if you are healthy. And wear a fabric mask in public, covering your mouth and nose. Don't touch your eyes, mouth, or nose with unwashed hands. And call for sneeze into your elbow or use a tissue. Keep a distance of 1.5 meters between you and other people. Let's all work together to stay safe.
Yes, until we are back in the concert halls making beautiful music, let's stay safe. Mr. T, just to wrap up the conversation, we're talking about the importance of information flow from the adjudicators workshop to the conductors workshop. How can we ensure that this thing happens so that we're not surprised on stage when kuculwa that other people have got information engafaniyo neyabanye?
The musical notes are of primary importance in any competition. They are important to the conductor, they are important to the singer, the performer. They are also important to the adjudicator. And if those are put in order, they should serve as guideline throughout the process. So if that information is actually initiated, of course, by the organizers through those boss parades, my take is, if by the time the scores are released, the notes for that competition must be actually going with the music, so that from the word go, conductors have this information at hand. Sometimes I think in the provinces, there are enthusiasts. We cannot blame them all the time. These are people who actually try to help because there is no information to help analyze these performances. And people would come, write up things. And there would be, in one province, a certain kind of write-up about the song analysis. In another province, something else. And in so doing, they would cross like this. You would find out there is a contrasting information that is actually in circulation. My take is the organizers must make sure they appoint people to make sure these are the people who are going to be writing the notes that we would authenticate to say to all the choirs, all the performers, these are the notes that we are abiding by. If at any point there is, for instance, a definition missed somewhere by whoever is writing the notes, it is up to those that are on the know to say, not to my understanding, I don't know this to be the right definition of what you said. What do they do in that regard? The person who has this point they actually get in touch with the organizers to say, I do not think the point so and so in the musical notes is correct. Amicably, they will look into that and see if they can find solutions. And if they agree somebody was coming with this information was having a right point, and an arrangement then should be made to say there is going to be an errata, and this errata will actually be again circulated by the same organizers to go to all the choirs, all the conductors to say, we are trying to reflect on a point, this a certain point we had in our notes. Instead of that, this is what we are saying should be followed. And I think if we actually have it that way, there is going to be a common understanding, and we all work towards the same goal, that by the end of the day, we won't have, people having different interpretations of something that was put there. Yes, there could be different interpretations that are actually put on stage, but at the end of the day, what is shared there must be something that is actually going to be, this is the point, this is what everybody must follow.
Yes, yes, thank you so much. We've run out of time. Mr. Shezi, perhaps as your parting shot, your advice to either young adjudicators who wish to be like you guys and have the kind of experience that you have over time, or else the organizers of competitions, because this is very much important that we make sure that our systems are tight going to 2021, so that the mistakes that we've committed in the past, the people we've hurt in the past, we cannot repeat such. So as your parting shot.
Babu Njeza, Tina, we learned from those that were adjudicators when we got there. And the danger enkulu is to think obviously out of criticisms that adjudication always encounter, is to think there is nothing to learn from those that have been there. So my word for encouragement is that there is still an institution which those that have been there on the field of adjudication who can pass knowledge, and they need to understand as well, like I said, adjudication evolves. They need to come on board, embrace what's there, and be ready to come up with ideas and listen to people. Look, I know in our era, we have made an effort to listen to conductors, to listen to singers in terms of saying, what is it that needs to be done to improve the system? And lastly, from my side, while Tikolo has been very emphatic in terms of making sure the notes, Bonile Nomamslik has written a note, there's got to be one specific point of prescription and it must be in agreement. An adjudicator must always understand that art form cannot be limited. It cannot be put into a frame. Interpretation of an art form requires an adjudicator to be versatile. When at a particular point he comes across an interpretation that says, wow, please listen to me, I'm coming with a perspective. Thank you very much.
Mr. T, maybe in less than a minute.
I would say, Sbu, to our lovely family in the choral, this is not to say stop looking or questioning what we do on the ground. Do that, help us grow. We all should take this genre to the next level. What I can say, the results can never be only good when your choir has won. Look it the other way. Somebody else didn't win. They were not happy. It's you today who's not winning. Be happy for them. The winner must recognize the loser. The loser must actually say kudos to the winner and promise him or her of the battleground, the positive working battleground for the following year, to say, we will be here, we'll be competing with you on a positive spirit. With that, I'm telling you, we will be headed for the better. In saying so, I'm also trying to say everybody must take care. COVID is still alive, and we just have to make sure that we keep safe, as was actually projected in the ad earlier on. We love you all. We are a family. Let us actually enjoy the festive season with that in mind. Thank you.
Mr. Tikolo, Mr. Shezi, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Thank you for spending this hour, 10 minutes with us here, sharing your information. And I want to thank everybody that participated in the show, and just for tuning in, others just for watching and following the show. And I hope that meanwhile we did not finish any of the points. We raised some important discussion points in each point, and that is deliberate, because this show is meant to challenge us to think beyond what we've been doing, so that we can do things differently and improve for the better going to the future. So thank you so much to everybody that joined me this afternoon. Next week, I am back with Kamal Khan, where he will be remembering a friend. And that friend is Umama Unolfefe Mchabe Ungasekoyo. They had a wonderful relationship since the time Kamal came to South Africa. We will be discussing some of the values and projects that Umama did whilst she was still alive, and see how we can learn from that as a fraternity and how we can grow from that. Ladies and gentlemen, sinengxaki gender-based violence, we have to make sure that we support the initiatives like the Sabelani Music Initiative, whereby choralists are gathering together to fight against GBV. And this is why I am leaving you with this song by Utata Ukinsela Sibisi Eti Sekwanele. Good afternoon.